Hey everyone, welcome to Family Forge, where I learned how to blacksmith from my dad. Our next project is going to be making a simple J-hook, which my dad is going to demonstrate in this video. And then in the next one, I'll try it out myself. So let's get started.
Okay, now that we got through the nails, we're gonna try making a simple hook. So one end is gonna be like we started the nails, and then the other end's gonna be flattened out and a hole put in it for a screw. I just did a test piece just to see what we're doing. I still need to put a hole in there. That was 4 inches to start with. You could do all the forging first and then do the bending, or you can just start from one end and work your way to the other end. If you know exactly what the length you want is, you could even mark that ahead of time. I can get out my ruler here, mark 4 inches, and then I can put it on the hardy and just mark my 4 inches ahead of time. I think what we're going to do is start drawing out the point as if it was a nail. Then we're going to round it off to try to match the round stock. We're going with 1/4 inch round instead of 1/4 inch square. This is long enough I don't have to use tongs. So you're going to do that 1/4 turn, focus in on that point, just go right down on that tip. That's how I like to do it anyway. If you want to go back and bring that taper back on the horn, the anvil's jumping around a little bit because it isn't really super well anchored. It's just sitting on a stump, bolted to a stump that's sitting on the floor. Now I'm using the flat face to smooth it off. In the process of making it round, I'll also smooth off the sides that I started with. So the first step is going to be putting it on the diagonal and driving in the corners. Now with the gas forge, I don't have to worry about cranking the crank, and I can throttle the gas down a little bit in the forge if I want to lower the temperature of the fire. Now I'm just smoothing off, hitting all those diagonals, driving them in so it's an octagon. And once you've kind of got it 8 sides, it doesn't take much to just go rotate the piece, knocking down any ridges that you see, and I can go back up into from one end to the other, just smoothing it. So now the whole thing looks fairly round. So now I've gone from that square taper to a round taper. There's certainly more than one way to go about something, whatever works for you. Find that groove that I put in it when it was cold. I don't want to quite have it pop off onto the floor, so I think I better quit there. Snap it off, put it back in the fire. Now, exactly how much you want that to overhang the anvil is sort of to be determined. If you've figured out what works, you can even draw a line on the anvil and say, okay, I'm going to hold that hot stock up to the line so that I get the right amount. So I can pull that out, put it up to the line, tip it down to and give it a good blow right at the corner of the anvil to make sure you get a nice step started. And then I'll go flip the hammer over. And then then you can start to bring it up, as long as you can make sure that you can stop on that line, that you don't overshoot. If it pops up and you hit it, you're going to lose that step. Now maybe I gave myself a little too much metal on that one. I should have had the line on the anvil. But you can always grind it a little bit afterwards and file it. So now I've got a little radius where the rounded edge of the anvil stepped it down. Here's my model that I tested out first, and I did that round without any additional work, just kind of came out right the first time. This one was a little extra material there. I could just file that a little bit to make it look a little bit better. With a little practice, you can get it to come out exactly how you want every time. By doing that, I can, when I put it back in the fire, it'll all get blackened, and I'll heat that in quickly just to blacken where I filed it. Now I've pinched it with the front of the hook facing up. The next thing I'm going to do is to form a loop on the end of the hook. I'm going to tap that down, turn it upside down, work it back a little bit. I can go down like this if I need to and kind of tuck in that corner, the point. The kind of combination of driving it in on itself will just sort of naturally roll it up. And then it's ready to form the hook. That's curved down and from the face of the hook, and now I'm going to bring it back up and around so that that loop will be in the front instead of the back. I need to cool it a little bit to make sure I don't wreck it. Now that it's cooled off, I can hit it without destroying it. Where you want to hit it to get it to bend evenly is sort of hard to describe. That looks pretty good. You can also do adjustments cold. So maybe I'll cool it off at this point. And then take a look at it. Now the hook isn't really quite lined up with the flat where the screw's going to go. I can grab it in this foot vise quickly, and that helps me looking down on it. I can, with the jaws of the vise in line with the flat, pinched like that, it's very easy to see how to get it lined up square. I can just give it a little twist with the wrench, and this is just an old monkey wrench from like an old automobile wrench from the, I don't know, the Model T or Model A Ford days. Some of the old ones said Ford right on the side, and I've welded a handle on it to make it kind of like a T wrench so that it's easier to twist and adjust things. I can also, if I want to make sure it lays flat, I can do some adjustments. Sometimes it's easier to look at it from the side and say, okay, that looks pretty straight. I just need to put a hole in it. Okay, so here's the hook. If we want to drill it today, we would just try to find the center and give it a little mark with the center punch and drill it with a drill press. But people have been putting holes in metal for 1,000 years or more. Now we could take our hook and try to put it in a vise and use a old egg beater drill. Before electricity, you could do it this way, but that's more of a woodworking tool. Metal's a little tougher, and you do need some down pressure. This has got a more modern 3-jaw chuck. Before the 3-jaw chuck, you had like a 2-jaw chuck with a square bit. You can lean your shoulder into it and turn the handle and drill a hole with some pressure down onto it. Another version of with a 2-jaw chuck is this bit and brace. This would be the brace and the auger bit with again with that square end. So you can open up the jaws and you can tighten it up. And this is the kind of woodworking bit that you'd use to drill holes when you tap maple trees. You can just lean in on this part and screw that right into the side of your maple tree like that. And I could theoretically use a bit brace or even an older one like this from kind of maybe more like 150 years ago, where you've got that square end that goes into in this case, a square tapered hole, so there's no chuck. I could throw something like that in there and push down on it and drill a hole in my steel that way. If I put that in a vise, I could use a twist drill like this and drill a hole right through the steel. Or I can just kind of go back to the old-fashioned way and find a punch that matches a hole in a piece of steel, lay it over, try to eyeball that, and it jumped out a little bit, put it back in. Then I can just break that right off. So there I just drove a little plug right out of the... One nice thing about punching a hole like that is that not only is it kind of quick and doesn't involve a whole lot of tools, you can also punch a square hole and you could never drill one. And if the metal's too thick, you can heat it up and do the same thing. It does blow out the backside a little bit. You can flatten that out a little bit. So there's a punched hole, and there's the hole, the plug. Okay, so here's the finished hook that we just made. Now it's been in the fire, and all the heat and oxygen in the fire has created that black iron oxide. That's why we call it blacksmithing. Sometimes your stock, when you start, will have a little surface rust on it, and that red rust is also iron oxide, but it's from water and oxygen working at the surface as opposed to the heat and oxygen. I can see a little red residue of surface rust, and if you want your piece to look a little more finished, you could brush that off and reheat it in the fire and just leave it gray, a soft gray color, the whole thing, try to get it uniform. But sometimes it's nice just to clean it up a little bit. If you don't have a wire brush wheel, you can just use a regular brush and just go over it. It also gives it a more of a metallic look. I like the exposing some of the steel and shining it up a little bit. That looks a little nicer now. You could do that on a power brush wheel, but that's kind of dangerous also, and you have to be careful. This will rust, and you can apply a finish to seal it. So there's a variety of different things you can apply as a sealer, rust preventative finish. Historically, something like boiled linseed oil, or you can warm this hook up in just a little bit in the fire and melt a little beeswax or even candle wax onto the surface and rub it in with a rag. I tend to go for something that's quick and easy and dries fast. Okay, these are 2 oil finishes that I use. I started with Penetrol, which is a paint additive for oil paints, but it is a thin, clear oil finish on its own. Now I'm using this antique oil finish by Minwax, and it's very similar. Pour a little into containers. I can just take a little disposable brush like that and just dab it and spread it out over the hook. A little goes a long way. I kind of put a little too much on. You can paint the finish on and then let it dry. It dries pretty quickly. Within a few hours that could be dry enough to handle. So then it has a nice shiny look, although if you want it to be more of a matte or a flat finish, you could rub that on with a rag. Just leave it here to dry. And you could just use a drywall screw, but if you want something a little more rustic looking, then there are these pyramid head wood screws with a slot in them, and you could apply that same antique oil finish to the screw head.
In the next video, I'll give it a try and we'll see how mine turns out. Be sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We appreciate the support and we'll see you soon.